Cat's Money Mike. I'm back with a follow-up update. So last 2 months or so, I have posted a video on how I was able to make money on Respondent.io. And I had mentioned that the best way to make the most money out of Respondent.io is by submitting to as many surveys as possible, but only submit on surveys where you have a decent knowledge on, because if and when the client selects you, you are or you will ask to speak on the topic. In most cases, they're actually considered moderated conversations. That means that the client expects you to turn on your webcam. It could be on Teams, it could be on Skype. They will ask you a series of questions as if they're interviewing you one-on-one. Then they expect you to kind of ask them questions towards the end too. So most of the user testing conversations I had are moderated. In some cases, they're moderated, and I had just completed one actually last week that's unmoderated, which I will post a follow-up video as part 3. But for this second part, this is in response to the video that I posted about 2 months ago. I finally got a response back from the client. They actually texted me. Okay, let me open up my text message. So on September 20th, Wednesday at 4:36 p.m., I received a text from Respondent. And even though this area code have a lot of conversation that went back and forth, I think this is an automated number. When I tried to respond back to this number here, and it looks like this is the same number I had for any kind of survey that I qualified for on Respondent.io. All right, so it says here, you've been invited to participate in a $100 study seeking professionals who work with data sources. To confirm, to secure your position, please confirm your attendance before time slots are filled. And there's a hyperlink. So basically, they texted me on Wednesday, September 20th, around 4:36 p.m. And then they asked me to select my preferred date and time slot. And so there were a lot of times, slots given to me. I was mainly looking for possibly after work hours and possibly on the weekends. So when I click on the confirmation link, there were no weekends, there were no lunch hours. So I was looking at it, and the latest time the client was willing to talk to me was around 7. So the options I had were like 5, 6, and 7. Those were considered the latest. And I selected 6 o'clock. Let me open up my Respondent.io website, and I will show you guys confirmation here. Okay, this part is important too. So right away, it shows my profile strength. And it looks like there's some part of the profile maybe that I didn't complete it. And that's because I did not verify my work email domain and company name. Now, I have done this at least 10 times already. I would say every 1 or 2 months, it's common for Respondent.io to come back here and ask you to re-verify your email address again. And that's probably the reason why my profile is not 100% filled. But let me go ahead and show you guys some of my activities. So under activities, I have one here that it was paid out $65 on October 24th, which was the unmoderated survey that I've completed recently. And I was trying to see if, there's a way to show my history of payment. Let's see. Okay, so I don't think there's any way to show my history of completed projects where they submitted me payment. But I have proof of this on PayPal. So let me switch over to my PayPal real quick. Okay, I have received some money from IKEA, but that's a separate story right there. Here we go. So on October 3rd, Respondent.io paid me $95. So $95 is actually the net payment. I was actually rewarded $100 as gross payment, but they had to deduct some kind of fee. So it was like 5% fee or something like that. And that's why they only paid out $95 as opposed to $100. When I received a text message, I've clicked on the hyperlink right away to select my time frame. And out of respect for the client, I will not mention the name. I would say this is one of the largest technology company. In fact, back in the 90s, this company was really popular. It was probably at its peak back in the 90s. So this company offers different segments or services now. They're still a really big, powerful company, maybe not as powerful as in the 90s. The first thing they told me was turning on the webcam was optional. since I had it turned on and set up, I left it on anyway. So the client didn't turn on the webcam, which is fine, because most of the conversations I had, whether it's through like user testing, Respondent.io, or any kind of applications I've been using that involve live conversation, I feel like it's only right for me to turn on my webcam for whatever reason. And I had to make sure that I at least fix my hair, or at least fix my shirt or something, even though I was still working from home that day. But yeah, there was one person actually did most of the talking, and there were two, I guess, I'm not sure if these two people were his candidates or not candidates, like his supervisor or managers, but there were two people in the background, and they would ask me like one or two questions every once in a while. But, the main person actually hosted the conference call or the live webcam, and he asked me, a series of questions like, he asked me to describe my day job, asked me what was my current title, and I had to explain, some of my backgrounds as far as what are some of my past experiences besides my current job. It's just almost like, just to like kind of go over my resume history. Most companies don't really care what company I worked for as long as they know about the industry. So sometimes, I wouldn't even mention what company I work for. I would instead just mention this is a company that's, based in this state within this city, and is one of the biggest industry within that area, So even saying something like that is more than enough for the clients to understand your experiences and background. But yeah, this conversation I had with the client lasted for, I would say, close to 1 hour, to be honest. And, a lot of questions were scenario-based questions after that. It's almost like they gave me 15 minutes to talk about myself, my experiences, my skill sets. And then the next 45 minutes or so, they had started asking me some scenario questions where the client had a screen. They gave me a website, and the website is more of a prototype, so it's not completely done. A lot of times when I click on these hyperlinks or buttons, it didn't really function. And the client told me to kind of walk through my thought process. So each time when I navigate to a certain screen within this website, this person asked me to, kind of speak my thoughts, why I click on this link, or why I'm looking at this area and maybe not looking at another area where the client was expecting to. And then, once I completed like the first task, the client then asked me if I somehow missed a certain link or missed a certain step. And I thought, oh, and that was like, based on my natural thought process, naturally I would navigate websites from upper left to lower right. And so, there were some parts where the client was kind of not surprised, but just wanted to hear my thought process on why I click on certain things, because this website is actually a prototype that they will use to launch a product, or more, actually it's more like a services that they would like clients to use going forward. And so there were two layouts. They asked me if layout A makes more sense than layout B, and I said something like, well, layout A maybe is not as good for searching, but it's probably better for an overview product listing. Whereas if someone didn't really know like what are the type of data sources as far as categories that exist, so then he or she may not know what kind of keywords to search for. And so these were some of the feedback that I gave to the client, And then after speaking for like 1 hour or so, we had kind of went overtime. They asked me if I'm willing to spend another 5 minutes talking further, because, I have dialed in late actually. My laptop, or actually not my laptop, my computer webcam wasn't working. And also they asked me to use WebEx. So when I used the WebEx website, the screen sharing wasn't working. When I used the WebEx desktop, the audio was working, but the screen share didn't work. So I had like challenges between the web browser and the desktop version. And I finally figured a way to kind of fudge with the WebEx desktop to finally get my iPhone audio. The only thing I have right now, or at least before this video, was using my iPhone and hook it up to my computer to, kind of like create like a live stream. But now I purchased the Insta360, so I no longer have to rely on my iPhone, and now I'm able to create videos with me just talking directly to my Insta360 camera without the need to actually constantly stare at my iPhone. So for my iPhone, I was still used to record certain content. That was pretty much my live conversation with Respondent after I submitted at least 5 submissions like prior to my video. Out of these 5, one client reached out to me, which I figure, if I responded to one, like let's say if I submitted to one survey, there's a slim chance of the client responding back to me, because there are probably thousands of candidates that wanted to, complete these surveys and, earn high rewards for a few minutes of like their time. And so I figure it's really competitive. If I submit 5 surveys, I figure there's 1 out of 5 chances that a client would respond back to me. And I was right. Someone did respond back to me. And, I did the conversation 1 hour. And then, funny enough, last week, another client actually reached out to me too. And it was the same time frame when I submitted these like 5 or 6 submissions. So sometimes it just takes some time. The client may not necessarily respond back to you right away. So don't give up your hopes. And someone commented on my channel recently saying, like, how long does it take for a respondent to respond back to you? To be honest, it varies. Some clients are probably super busy. They probably don't have time to respond back to you right away. It may take a couple of months. In some cases, 6 months later, I have received text messages from submissions that I've submitted 6 months ago. So it really varies. And even for the industry, someone asked me on my channel too about, what are the most common industry or role that this person should apply for? And I'm like, well, there's really no common industry, at least based on my experience, based on how my profile is set up. The most common ones seem to be geared towards like technology stuff, because those are the type of stuff I work or dealt with on a daily basis. But there's other stuff too, where like they're looking for a marketing person. They're looking for like even a sports fanatic. If someone used like, DraftKings, I mean, to be honest, I don't think there's a one-size-fit-all industry where, you must be knowledgeable within that industry to really have good live conversation and get qualified for it. It really depends on your background, your knowledge, and how you're able to communicate the subject matters to the client. If you are great at something and you have a really good understanding of the subject matter, make sure that you at least practice before the call, just to make sure that you're able to communicate the subject matters, to the client effectively. Going back to the one from last week, I will post another video to share my experiences and thoughts about my unmoderated survey from Respondent. And this is, I believe, my second unmoderated Respondent survey that I took. That's all I had for today. Thank you everyone for your time. And once again, smash the like and subscribe. It would really help me out. Thank you so much.